enemy commanders ordered troops to hide the moment they heard rotor blades. This is every American helicopter that made the sky ungovernable. Let's jump right into the attack helicopters. The Hunters, machines that made jungle clearings into graveyards and convinced enemy commanders to rewrite their entire doctrine. UH-1 Huey gunship. Flew 7.5 million combat missions. Enemies froze the moment they heard those blades. That sound meant rockets, miniguns, and no escape. The thumping heartbeat that never stopped. AH-1G Cobra. The world's first purpose-built attack helicopter screamed at 190 miles per hour and erased entire positions before enemies could react. Soviet advisors called it a problem they couldn't solve. The snake that rewrote the attack on aviation. OH-6 Cayuse used itself as bait and survived. The deadliest trap in aviation history, OH-58 Kiowa, replaced the Cayuse as the primary scout, faster, harder to hit, equally willing to fly into certain danger to find targets worth killing. The eye that enemies couldn't blind, UH-1C, built specifically because cargo Hueys weren't lethal enough. Faster, meaner, carrying more firepower than anything its size had any right to carry. Too angry to call a transport. Now we have assault transport helicopters. The Sword, aircraft that delivered soldiers into combat faster than enemies, could react and permanently changed how armies fight. UH-1D Huey carried entire infantry squads into hot landing zones while door gunners shredded everything within range. Invented air assault warfare in real time. The aircraft that changed ground combat forever. UH-1H Huey. More powerful engine, heavier load capacity, same willingness to land in hell. Flew more Vietnam combat hours than any other aircraft. The version that actually won the war. CH-34 Choctaw, piston-powered and aging before the war escalated, still flew combat insertions nobody else would attempt. Should have been in a museum, refused to stay there. CH-21 Shawnee, twin-rotor, banana helicopter that flew the war's very first combat assault missions in 1962, proving vertical assault worked before anyone believed it. The pioneer who paid the price in blood, HH-43 Husky, Air Force rescue helicopter launching into crash sites before dedicated rescue aircraft could respond. First responder with no escort, no backup, no hesitation. Courage dressed as utility. Let's move forward toward heavy lift helicopters. The Backbone, aircraft defying physics to move armies, artillery, and crashed machines through terrain that destroyed everything else. CH-47 a Chinook. The first version proved a helicopter could move artillery pieces, entire platoons, and downed aircraft from jungle clearings. First in, built everything that followed. The pioneer who made heavy lift a reality. CH-47C Chinook, maximum power, maximum payload, maximum reliability in the worst conditions Vietnam offered. Made every previous version look like a rough draft. The peak that nothing surpassed. CH-54 Tahe. The Sky Crane lifted bulldozers, howitzers, and wrecked aircraft using a bare skeleton fuselage that looked impossible. Moved things that had no business being airborne. Physics ignored. CH-37 Mojave, massive piston-powered helicopter recovering downed aircraft before jets could reach them. Slow, deafening, and completely irreplaceable in 1962. The original heavy lifter who built the template. CH-46 Sea Knight. Marine twin-rotor transport moving troops from ships to shore under fire faster than Chinooks, equally relentless. The Corps never lost a mission waiting for this aircraft. Marine reliability personified. CH-53 Sea Stallion carried 55 combat-equipped Marines or 24,000 pounds of cargo through the worst Vietnam offered. Nothing this size moved this aggressively. The storm that carried armies inside it. Now it's the turn of medical evacuation helicopters. No kill counts, no glory, just the aircraft that flew into active firefights unarmed to pull dying soldiers back from the edge. H-13 Sioux, Korean War veteran pressed into Vietnam medevac before proper aircraft arrived. Fragile bubble cockpit, no armor, flying over active battlefields daily, too exposed to survive long. Saved lives anyway. UH-19 Chickasaw, early war medevac helicopter proving that rotating wings could reach wounded soldiers faster than any ground transport could dream. Built the medevac doctrine every aircraft after it followed. Every saved life started here. H-21 medevac, banana helicopter converted to casualty evacuation in the war's earliest days, slow enough that ground fire found it regularly, brave enough to fly anyway, too slow to escape, too committed to stop. Now we move forward towards special operations helicopters, classified missions, blacked out aircraft, and crews who officially never existed, delivering results that shaped the entire war's direction. HH-3 Jolly Green Giant penetrated North Vietnam at night to rescue downed pilots from enemy territory, refueled in mid-air, absorbed ground fire, never left anyone behind. the rescue beast that defied every odd stacked against it. HH-53 Super Jolly Green Giant, bigger, faster, and more heavily armored than the Jolly Green, flew missions so dangerous that crews received medals simply for attempting them. The giant that swallowed impossible odds whole, CH-3C, inserted and extracted CIA and Special Forces teams from locations that appeared on no official map, officially never there, completely irreplaceable. The ghost that won classified battles, UH-1N Twin Huey, twin engine reliability for missions where a single engine failure meant capture or death, 2 engines, zero margin for error, flown by pilots who understood both. The lifeline operators are trusted with everything. AH-1 JC Cobra, Marine twin-engine Cobra with a 20mm cannon that made an already lethal design into something enemies specifically tried to avoid, took devastating and made it worse. The evolution nobody on the ground wanted to see. Let's jump right into the Navy and Marine carrier helicopters. Operating from steel decks in the South China Sea, extending American reach from carrier to coastline and back under fire. SH-3 Sea King hunted North Vietnamese naval assets, protected carrier groups from submarines, and recovered Apollo astronauts as a secondary mission, equally dominant killing and rescuing. The sea owned this aircraft. UH-2 Sea Sprite, a Navy utility helicopter that transitioned from logistics to combat, search and rescue when pilots needed to be pulled from the ocean, adapted without being asked, mastered without being trained, refused every limitation given to it. CH-46 A Sea Knight flew unarmed into contested beaches delivering Marines who would fight, while the crew had no weapons and nowhere to hide, no armor, no protection, absolute commitment, the unarmed aircraft that started the battles. HSS-1 Seabat, ancient anti-submarine helicopter patrolling coastal waters for enemy infiltration craft, obsolete by every measure, reliable beyond every expectation. The old guard held the line when nothing newer was available. Now we have observation and scout helicopters, unarmed, alone, flying lower than anything else, the most dangerous cockpits in a war full of people in dangerous cockpits. OH-23 Raven, Korean War observation helicopter, flying Vietnam scout missions a full decade after it should have retired, fragile, slow, completely exposed, refused retirement, refused defeat, refused to be replaced until something better arrived. LOH-OH-6 Hunter-Killer, deliberately drew enemy fire to expose positions for Cobra gunships waiting above, used itself as bait by design, survived by skill, insane concept, brilliant execution, the bravest bait ever built. TH-55 Osage, without this training helicopter, the pilots flying every aircraft on this list would never existed, built the entire pilot pipeline that kept the air war operational. Every victory in this script started here. Utility and logistics helicopters, no headlines, no kill counts, just the aircraft that kept armies breathing when everything else pushed them toward collapse. CH-34D Choctaw, marine utility variant hauling supplies to forward bases through jungle terrain that stopped every wheeled vehicle cold, rescued burning aircrew and handled every crisis. Combat helicopters were too valuable to risk on. Armies live or die on aircraft exactly like this. HH-1H Huey handled every base emergency, too small for combat helicopters, but too critical to ignore the work nobody filmed, celebrated, or noticed until this aircraft wasn't available. No glory, zero failures. The standard, everything else chased. TH-1L Huey, naval training variant that created every helicopter crew flying every mission on this list. Without the TH-1L, the pilots who won Vietnam's air war never learned to fly. The creator of Warriors, experimental and prototype variants. The testing ground machines pushed beyond design limits to discover what rotary wing aviation could become. AH-56 Cheyenne, the most advanced attack helicopter ever built. 220 miles per hour, rigid rotor, 30mm cannon, performance that made everything else obsolete. Cancelled before combat. The future that arrived before anyone was ready for it. EFO. Night fighting Huey prototype testing, infrared sensors, and night vision for nocturnal combat lost to budget cuts, but validated every concept used in night-capable helicopters built afterward. The cancelled experiment that never stopped mattering. XH-51 Compound, experimental high-speed helicopter testing rigid rotor technology that made compound aircraft possible, too radical for immediate production, too important for history to ignore. The seed of every high-speed helicopter grew. From Hueys logging 7 million missions to Cobras that made enemies change their entire doctrine, American helicopters didn't just fight in Vietnam, they rewrote how armies move, attack, rescue, and survive. These machines invented air assault, perfected medevac, and proved vertical lift could decide wars. Every pilot who flew them, every soldier they carried, every life they saved contributed to the same truth. The aircraft were extraordinary. The people flying them refused to be anything less.